everyone, it's Christy. Welcome to day 10 in my 2015 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be using this paper pad here by Crafty called Gingerbread, and I'm just going to go ahead and flip through it real quick for you to get an idea of what it looks like. I found this at Michael's, and I thought it would be perfect for this little stamp set from Lawn Fawn called Oh Snap, or also for the other gingerbread set, Sweet Christmas. So I'm going to be using those today, and I'm not going to be doing any coloring, if you can believe it. I know, that seems crazy because I do color on like 99% of my cards, but today I thought I would do something quick and easy with just a little bit of embossing and stamping with some different colored inks. So to begin, I'm going to stamp these little gingerbread men on a piece of hot cocoa cardstock from MFT, and I'm going to white emboss those with some white embossing powder, and then I'll just grab my heat gun and heat those up. I love that little guy with his funny face. He's just too cute. So I'm going to die cut those out, and then I've got this oval from the Lawn Fawn stitched oval dies, and I'm going to take two little stamps from the Deck the Halls set by Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to try to turn this oval into a Christmas platter. So I'm grabbing some Avery L inks. These are pigment inks, and the blue is called Sea Glass, and it's just a really pretty pale blue, which is what I wanted for this, because I want it to kind of look like maybe a china plate. So I'm just doing like a little china pattern around it. So I'm starting with the ends, and then I'll stamp on the middle of the sides, and that gives me an idea of where I need to fill in. So there was room for two more of these little leaves in between each of those points, and that way I could get them spaced. And then when I've got all those on there, I'm going to grab some Love Letter ink from Memento Luxe, and I'll use that to add the berries in front of each of the leaf sets. And then I'll just set that aside to dry because I really don't want that pigment ink to smear. So moving on to the card base, I've got a whole bunch of pattern paper strips cut out because I really wanted to make good use of that paper pad. So I just looked up a sketch on Pinterest to use, and I'm going to start by adding these strips to the bottom of just a cheap white piece of cardstock. This is just Georgia Pacific cardstock from Walmart, and I save it for stuff like this when it really doesn't matter because almost none of it is going to show. So these bottom strips are cut to 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm using some Tombow Mono multi-glue to adhere them down because I want to be able to move them around and get the spacing right at the end. So I am just adhering them really close to each other, but leaving just a tiny break in the space. There was a little bit left over on the measurement, and so I thought I would just leave a little bit of the white showing through to kind of break up the patterns and define them a little bit more, and it'll also tie in the white from our platter. So now I'll take this peppermint pattern strip, and that one is cut to 2 inches by 5.5, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the top, and I'd like to flip it over just to line things up and press that firmly into place. And then I'm going to grab this little pink polka dot scalloped piece. And this one I left at the full 6 inches because I wanted to be able to line it up and trim it off evenly on each side. So I've got that, and then I've got one more strip that is just 3/4 of an inch by 5.5, and I'm going to layer that over top. Just get that nice and lined up, and then I can flip over my card and trim off the extra of that little pink strip there. So then I'll just adhere that panel to my card base, which is MFT's Hot Cocoa cardstock, just like the piece that we use for the gingerbread men. And I'm just using my Tombow Mono once again to do that. Get that nice and lined up and straight. I'll just grab my little oval platter here and pop that up with some Scotch 3M foam tape and get that centered on the front of the card where I want it. And then I'll just grab my little gingerbread men and adhere those with some more of the Tombow Mono. Normally I would like to pop them up, but this card is going to go through the mail, so I didn't want to have too much dimension. There is a little, So sometimes you do have to pay a little extra postage for that, but it's usually worth it, but I just didn't want to get it out of control. When I'm unsure, I usually just take it to the post office directly and have them stamp it with a do not sort stamp so that it skips the sorting machine, and they just do it by hand. So I'm adding my sentiment, which is "Oh Snap" from that set, and I've stamped it inside a speech bubble from A Birdie Told Me and die cut that out. And the inks I used were the Lawn Fawn Walnut and Lobster inks. And then I'm just going to grab my corner chomper from We Are Memory Keepers. I haven't used this thing in so long, but I just felt like the top needed rounded off. And I also felt like I needed to carry that pink up just a little bit further. So I cut a very thin strip of that and just tore it in half. And I'm adding a tiny amount of Tombow Mono just above that banner pattern paper to just add that little bit of pink. And then as soon as that's dry, I can go ahead and flip that over and trim off the excess. And that completes our card for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.